Hello, good afternoon to all. Welcome again. It's the second day of Skill and Entrepreneurship Innovation Conclave organized by APAC Digital News Network and hosted by the Labour and Skills Department, Government of Kerala. We just had the opening ceremony of the second day, which talked about reimagining startup transformation to redefine entrepreneurial mindset, the way forward, in which we saw the presence of policymakers from states of Kerala, Gujarat, Telangana, and also from Orissa, along with IIT Kanpur and AICTE. Now we have come to a very important session of this conclave, that is leveraging collaborative ecosystem for better employment. But without taking much time, let me introduce to all of you Mr. Raghav Gupta, Managing Director, India and APAC, Coursera. He'll be playing the role of moderator. So over to you, Mr. Raghav Gupta. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Shavik. Could you confirm my audio is okay?
Yeah, your audio is perfect.
Yeah, it is, Raghav. It is.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure for me to be moderating this powerhouse panel. As Shavik said, the topic for us is leveraging the collaborative ecosystem for better employment. And I'll just take a minute to kind of share a little bit of what we hope to cover in this conversation and also how we will structure the panel. Now, all of us know that the world around us changed significantly last year, right? Whether it was the industry, whether it was higher education, and then within higher education, government regulations with NEP, etc., brought about significant changes. This panel will focus around how collaboration or a collaborative ecosystem can deliver better employment outcomes for students in higher education. And my hope is that we will talk about collaboration between academia and industry, but also talk about collaboration between universities themselves and possibly between universities and the government as well. And the way we'll run this panel is I'll pose questions to each of the panelists. I'll ask you to share your opening remarks in about 4 to 5 minutes, and then come back to you a second time to build on what we would have shared. I was saying in the preparation before this, if you're going over 4 or 5 minutes, I will raise my pencil to remind you that your time is up so that we can move on to the next speaker. And so that's how we'll run the panel. And just as quick structure, I work at Coursera. We work with thousands of businesses in India as well as around the world. And I know from an employment perspective that companies that we work with are telling us that automation, which was already happening in business, and COVID, which hit us last year, has brought about something that industry and World Economic Forum are calling double disruption. And double disruption has 4 elements to it. Jobs are getting displaced. Almost 50% of companies are saying that we need new skills for our working professionals in the next few years. Many companies are saying that even post-COVID, we will continue to work to some extent from home. So work from home is going to be a long-term, possibly a permanent feature. And almost 90% companies are saying that digitization is going to be a key element of their strategy. And so with some of these elements that are changing at an industry level, what is it from a higher education standpoint that we need to be thinking about is going to be the discussion in this panel. And I'd like to start with Dr. Mantha, and if I could come to you and also introduce, I don't think you need an introduction, but I think the audience knows you as the former chairman of the AICTE, currently Chancellor of KL University. And Dr. Mantha, what I'd like to ask is, a key ingredient of any strong relationship is empathy, which is essentially understanding the needs of the other party. And in this case, if we were to say that the other party is industry and the employer, how do you think universities can keep themselves informed of what the industry needs, and especially in these uncertain times? And are there any specific developments that you've seen that industry has been speaking about? I know you write extensively as well about what's happening that all of us should be aware of. If we can start with that, please.
Yeah, thank you, Raghav. And all my co-panelists, good morning. First of all, let's look at certain university and certain industry benefits. It's all going back to the fundamentals and looking at what they actually mean, and therein lie the arguments for the work. So if you break up the university benefits of collaborating with an industry, let's say a pie chart, One big slice would be industry feedback and guidance. Now, universities know they have problems that can't be solved in isolation in a lab, and therefore the industry feedback becomes the key element to taking an invention or product from from conception to market. Now, that is where a very important collaboration happens and will drive innovation, will drive the startup ecosystem within the universities and so on. That needs a very high level of collaboration with the industry. Now, industry partnerships, they also give students and faculty additional funding. Though it happens only in a few institutions like the IITs or maybe a few other institutions in India, it must expand by many times. By striking up those corporate partnerships, universities have actually more resources to undertake research, and therefore they are able to diversify their research areas. So again, the collaboration with the university matters. Now, another slice of that pie chart which I was talking about is the students getting meaningful employment. Now, jobs, good jobs, they often with the they happen with the university partnership companies or universities partnership companies, and who don't have the time themselves to incubate ideas, and they're vying for graduates who have the pulse to understand the emerging markets and so on. And since they have mentored the students while collaborating, they also acquire expertise long before they actually become the employees. So mentoring is again critical for student training and for skills development and therefore the job placement and so on. Now, this pipeline from research student to employee is a powerful PR tool for the universities as well. They can actually brand themselves and get going. And then, yes, there are career paths which can be set up for those who have the entrepreneurial mind and so on. Now, these are the benefits that the university gets. If you look at the other way around, what does the industry get in this kind of collaboration? We see the startup ecosystem, and over the past few decades, most of the successful companies have come out of the universities, and therefore there lies a value proposition. And the companies are hungry for ideas. They act, and the actual technologies and intellectual properties are all available to commercialize those ideas, and those ideas have to come from the students and so on. Now, the companies also get an access to the network of faculty, the key opinion leaders, the lead scientists, and the ability to team up with other companies interested in similar research work. Finally, collaborating with universities, they allow companies to somehow de-risk their research and provide research cost avoidance, saving them money even as they give some money to the universities. Now, all this is good in theory and so on, but a lot of on-ground work will be required to be done both by the industry and the universities. And like you said, universities must rediscover collaborating between themselves, between departments. Today, they don't talk to each other and things like that. So within the university, people have to come and collaborate. Of course, the government collaboration would always be there. So in total, I believe the future goes towards a complete collaborative environment and ecosystem. Whoever builds that first will probably be successful.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I like what you shared, right, which is for the university to think about this as a pie chart. And a part of that pie chart is research, a part of that is jobs, and a part of that is mentoring with a larger benefit of PR as well. And then you spoke about the industry point of view in terms of benefits as well. So I think that's a great starting point for us to get the conversation started. Vineet, if I could come to you next, and if I could also just quickly introduce you. So Vineet Gupta, founder and trustee of Ashoka University and managing director of Jamboree Education. So I'm conscious you need to leave a little bit early as well, Vineet, but I was wondering, and to me, it's not completely entirely obvious that at least from the outside for, a university which is a little bit more liberal arts focused, How would you think about industry partnerships, especially given our topic today, which is a little bit more focused on employability? What's the approach that you have taken at Ashoka?
Yeah. No, thanks, Raghav. So let me, first start with your question, which is, as a liberal arts university, how are we focusing on this whole domain of employment and how are we relating it to skills? When we look at employment and we look at skills, at least I would like to bucket skills in two categories. I think one is life skills, which to me are skills of analytical reasoning, ability to write well, ability to read well, ability to problem solve, ability to think critically, ability to collaborate. I think these are life skills that benefit every individual. And especially as you rise up in your career and you take on leadership positions, some of these skills are even more important and get highlighted even much more. I think a liberal arts institution focuses on life skills, whether to be able to read well, write well, to be able to critically analyze an issue, to problem solve. And at least the approach of institutions like Ashoka is to have a heavy emphasis on life skills. So we run a center for reading and writing, where every student goes through intensive reading, writing. As a liberal arts institution, we run a center for entrepreneurship, where inculcating the entrepreneurial mindset is very important, and there is intervention in the curriculum right through. So we focus on life skills. And the second set of skills is really professional skills. If you can program well or code well, for example, there's no guessing that you will be able to get a right job. If you are a dentist, you can get a good job in a hospital. If you're a civil engineer and somebody has to build a bridge, they would need you. So the second category is more professional skills, which come with more professional curriculum of engineering, of medicine, of business. So institutions like Ashoka, which are more liberal arts, have heavy emphasis on life skills. And we believe that half the jobs in industry, in government, need people with broad set of competencies. Today, if you're hiring people in digital marketing, if you're hiring people as analysts, if you're hiring people who can read and write well, I think there you need students who have a wide variety of skills and life skills. And we are finding our students are doing extremely well there. So that in some sense answers your question. There's heavy, and whether with the pedagogy, class discussion-based learning, open-ended research assignments, I think some of these things sort of help. The second thing I wanted to touch on, Raghav, briefly in a minute or two, is really, and Dr. Mantha really spelled out very nicely why collaboration with government and industry is important for universities. However, there the challenge I find that neither universities nor government, whether industry, whether government or universities, whether they talk about it a lot, but none of them have formal structures to deepen that collaboration. Most often collaboration in a university will end up at a training and placement department. So faculty are not incentivized. Faculty are involved in teaching and research, and faculty sometimes will not have the time to deepen those partnerships. So university need to inculcate a special cadre of professionals, even specially create functions and departments which are responsible for collaboration. So you have to be intentional about creating programs which deepen that collaboration. It doesn't happen on their own. Similarly, I find with industry, when you approach industry, often this function is delegated to the HR department, who's already quite burdened with recruitment, training, and deepening collaboration with university is not like item number 1 or 2 on their agenda. So both industry, actually all three, industry, government, and universities have to be extremely intentional, create the right incentives, create specialized people who deepen these partnerships, and create specialized programs. Only then can it progress. And finally, I'll close by saying that there are examples which we've undertaken in our own institution. We run a special program called the Chief Minister's Good Governance Program with the government of Haryana. We are located in Haryana. Now, this is like a 1-year internship program where 24 students work in each district of the state, and they work closely with the Chief Minister's office. Now, the fallout of that program is that we've graduated about 105 people, and 19 of them then now work, the alumni work with government of Haryana in various positions. And another 20-30 work with Niti Aayog, central government. So it's a very experiential program, created with a lot of effort. And there are other interventions in our master's programs, but the point I wanted to make is very intentional intervention, properly funded, have professionals running it. That is how this collaboration can deepen. Otherwise, it ends up being a conversation most often. So I'll sort of end here, Raghav.
Thank you. And I really like what you said, right? So thinking about employment via skills and then breaking up skills into life skills and professional skills. And if I can, before I come to Dr. Navin said, add a little bit of what we've learned at Coursera, over the last 2 years, especially during COVID. There are millions of working professionals who come to our platform to learn. And I was looking at what were the top 10 skills learned by working professionals across different professionals around the world in 2019. And, number 1 was Python, number 2 was AI, number 3 was algorithms, and then there was strategy, there was writing and so on. But a lot of it was what you call professional skills, right? Just the hard skills. And then in 2020, it changed completely. Number 1 skill learned on Coursera was writing. Number 4 was mindfulness. Number 5 was meditation. Number 6 was gratitude, kindness, listening, and so on. So this whole thing about a balance between professional skills and life skills, or human skills, like we tend to call them, is possibly what the future might look like, given what COVID has changed around us. And I think I really appreciate the way you framed this and shared it with us. And the government university collaboration, of course, is what I'd love to come to Dr. Navin Seth and get your thoughts as well. And just quickly to introduce you. So Professor Dr. Navin Seth is Vice Chancellor of Gujarat Technical University. And I don't remember the number of colleges and the number of students you cover, but I know the numbers are very large that are a part of the affiliated system, the ecosystem of GTU. And obviously, when we discuss Indian higher education, the regulatory framework that governs institutions in the country is extremely important. And I wanted to ask you, from a public institution standpoint, what regulation, what framework is needed to enable collaboration between universities and industry, with a big focus on employability for this conversation. Yeah.
Namaskar and good morning to all my co-panelists. Sir has rightly said, my university, the state university, covers the whole Gujarat, and about 500 colleges affiliated with my university, and about 5 lakh students enrolled with my university, the largest university of the Gujarat. Yes, and it's a very important topic you have discussed today. We are discussing today. So, which type of the regulations required to be at the government level, at the institute level, to strengthen this industry-institute collaboration? It's a very important topic. So both are important. At the institute level or the university level, number of pedagogical changes are required. Suppose most of the conventional universities, state university, they are just enroll the students, conduct the exam, and declare the results and giving the degrees. But now the days were gone, and we have to provide a platform to the students to showcase their idea and to develop an ecosystem for that. So that is the major role, important role of the university to play, or the institute to play, and to support the idea, to nurture the idea for the startup. But for that, pedagogical changes are required. Suppose my all PG students, masters in pharmacy, master in engineering, master in business management, we are giving industry defined problem, IDP. So means at about 3,000, 4,000 students, they are working on the industry defined problems. So we have a very good network with the industries, various GIDC, and they are giving us a problems, and we are to sensitize our faculties, mentors, and they providing the problems to their students. They are working on that problem of the industry. So that is one of the changes required. So means we make it mandatory for all PG students to have and work on this type of the problems. Another thing, suppose most of the university, I think all university, they are giving gold medal to the meritorious students. So we make a changes that the best startup of the students will give the gold medal along with the meritorious students. We give the gold medal to the best startup of the students. So that type of the changes are required. Second thing, our traditional education system, they more emphasis on the classroom teaching and other thing, and some practicals or the curriculum. But this now, after this COVID-19, lot of changes. There are number of digital platforms are mushrooming in all sectors. So the different skill is required, emphasis on the skill is required, and that is to be inculcated. Dr. Vineet ji has already said about how the institute can inculcate the skill in their curriculum or during the 4-year study. The second thing, there are lot of changes required in curriculum, lot of changes. In most of our university, the more emphasis on the academic matters. Even the PhD students, they are working on academic problems. So more emphasis on the practical part, the skilling part. The students will get the exposure during their study, not after the study. But during their 4-year study or a 3-year study, he get the exposure of the problems of the society, problems of the rural peoples. And for that, the industry visit of the village, and such type of the interaction to be emphasized. So that is all to be included in the syllabus. So that type of the change is required at the institute level. Government is also, most of the government, they give the sanction to the teaching post, support for some instrumentation facility and other thing. And that's why our industry institute interaction cell is existing since long. But that is just for tick mark, because the teachers who assign this duty, he feel that my major duty is to work in the classroom and laboratories. So this is an additional duty assigned by the principal. So he is not emphasized more on that. So notice, government has to specially provide a financial support to the institutes for the placement, for the industry institute interaction and other thing. So that type of some regulation or the part from the government is required to enhance this industry institute collaboration. So
got it. That's very helpful, Dr. Sheth, and maybe I can come back to you in a bit to continue and hear from your thoughts as well. But I think you spoke both about regulation and also about pedagogical change at institutions themselves, including the IDP, which is the industry-defined problem, which I think was really interesting to hear. And we'll come back and talk a little bit more. Rajita, if I could come to you next. Now, you've worn many hats as part of your career, and I stalk you a little bit on LinkedIn, so I know that you've been a banker, you're a higher education leader currently, you've written a book, The Unknown Edge, right? And you've been leading a university which is still, I would say, relatively a younger university. And in the context of this conversation around industry partnerships and how those might be effective, as a way to build credibility quickly, how does a university such as yours, which is a relatively younger university, think about industry partnerships, and how do you approach it? And also, given that you've been a banker for many years, what perspective do you bring into higher education, which might be relevant for us to hear?
Thank you, Raghav, and that's a very pertinent question for us. So as we discussed before, what I want to share is a few of the things that we have done, which might be good pointers for universities like ourselves who are, fairly young, very young actually. So I have a few points here and how we really started. In fact, Raghav, the first thing we started on our campus, even before our actual academic program started, was a skill center with Larsen and Toubro. So the first thing, Dr. Mantha laid out the pie very well, and I would like to add one more item to the pie, which is corporate social responsibility aligning with university social responsibility. So even before our first academic program started, we started a skill center with Larsen and Toubro for skills like bar bending and other construction skills. And that center has been running now for the last 8-9 years, and we've trained more than 2,000 students, young boys from Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, who may be school dropouts, etc. So the first approach could be when you are a new educational institution, like we have the parentage of Art of Living, and of course everybody knows Art of Living and everybody knows Pujya Gurudev, but as a university we were new. So how do you make the inroads? So the first suggestion I have is look at CSR and foundation partnerships with industry. We did that with L&T, then we did it with Schneider, where we looked at distribution of solar lamps in the villages around the university. And now we have a skill center for renewable energy. So industry is looking for partnerships in these areas, and new or old, universities are a good, credible partner to have. So that's the first. The second is look at industry existing programs on education. Like National Stock Exchange has a program on capital markets. So on our first convocation, we signed an MOU with them to have a postgraduate program on capital markets. A Future Group has a program on MBA in retail marketing. So look at such partnerships of corporates where existing educational programs might be existing, and their universities, even which are new, have a good chance of making an inroad. The third is look at local partnerships, private and public. I want to give both examples. Milk Mantra is a very, very, we are very proud of Milk Mantra coming from our state and city. And, we have a very old relationship now with Milk Mantra. We both are young in our life cycles. So whether it was startup mentorship, whether it was giving live projects to students, whether it was formal internships, and ultimately jobs. We have I think a very, very solid partnership with Milk Mantra. Plus they come and, learn mindfulness, meditation from us. So that's both ways that has worked. Also with a public institution like NALCO, because of our, youth leaders, which are all over the state of Odisha, as in India. We have a partnership with them, Raghav, on rural developments with specific focus on women. And there now the students are involved, NALCO is involved. That leads to, again, more internships, jobs, and so on. So look at local partnerships. Paradip Port, our neighbor, we do MDPs with them. They recruit from us. So again, it's a two-way. So the third suggestion I would have is look at local partnerships. The fourth, Vineet has left us, is government priorities. Our Chief Minister Navin Patnaik announced a very aggressive Startup Odisha program. And we are now quite integrated with that. We are a nodal agency for Startup Odisha. We do startup boot camps. We have a very big startup culture in the university last 3-4 years. Many, about 40 startups have got incubated. So that gives you a good integration with what the government priorities. So that would be my fourth suggestion for universities listening to us. The fifth is, everybody wants to come and give a lecture or two to our students. So really reaching out, and, that's why our faculty networks, our own networks, student networks, we must have had close to 4,000-5,000. We have a global leadership series where we invite industry experts to come and interact with students. So I mean, I don't even have the count. Sometimes we have 5 in a day. So that begins a relationship, which then you can, nurture and nourish as time goes by. So that would be my fifth suggestion. My sixth one is look at industry bodies. Like we became members of NHRD. Along with them, we have had a couple of conferences. We did a huge conference on happiness at the workplace, where NHRD brought in its own network, and that gives you inroads into their network, and then you can collaborate with individual companies. ASOCHAM, FICCI, we are quite integrated in the CII local network, again on the startup side. So looking at local, national, regional industry networks is a great inroad for the university or the higher education institution, and for students. Like Dr. Sheth said, that, live problems and live internship, live learning when they are in the course. So that was that would be my sixth suggestion. We have experienced it quite successfully. And seventh, just 2 days ago, Raghav, we launched a department, a faculty of emerging technologies in partnership with IBM, which is, I think this is like a more full-fledged sustainable relationship where we co-created the curriculum. We have launched 6 programs, BTech, BSc in AI and ML, BTech, BSc in data science, integrated MBA, and so on in data analytics. So that is a complete co-creation, co-ownership of the program, taking complete co-responsibility for the whole student life cycle, and then finally the employability. So starting from corporate social responsibility and university social responsibility to ultimately a full co-creation of a industry academic program where we are both equally invested. I think there is a big range of possibilities, and we have experienced success in most of them. Sometimes, Raghav, you have to experiment also. You take a risk, you start something, and then somehow you both realize that whether it's financially feasible for you or not, whether it's giving you the market impact or not, whether students are really enjoying the course curriculum or not. So you also a little bit have to learn and take some risks and decide what works for you or not. So we've had some good success in that. We have also, because of the global network of the art of living, I think our students have that great benefit of really the whole world being available to them as a platform, and I think we are leveraging that to give a great inroads to the students.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
These are 7 wonderful points. And just to your last point, which is it's okay to take risks. In the startup world, we call it fail fast, right? So it's okay to fail as long as you fail fast and learn from it and then go back and do something the second time. To your point number 4, which is getting industry experts to give a lecture or two at the university. I've been fortunate to do that myself as well. And I was invited by Dr. Richa Vasudev to come and speak to some of the students at Shri Shri University. So I personally identify with that. I'd love to go to Dr. Mahendra Sharma next, but I also wanted to add one more point to what you shared, which is partner with industry programs who already have education as a part of their portfolio, and partly a little bit of what you've done with IBM as well. Coursera is known for content from universities on our platform. Not many people fully realize this. There are 50 companies who create content on our platform as well. So I completely identify with what you mentioned, that there's merit in the academic world partnering with education programs created by industry. And so these 55 companies like Google and IBM and many others who've created 650 courses on Coursera, we found that they've been taken by 11 million people, or almost 1.1 crore people. So there is definitely a strong appetite among students, especially from an employability flavor, to come and take some of this content. But those are wonderful 7 points. Thank you for sharing.
I want to make one point. I meant to say it in the first before I started, but I want to, from the education community, but especially from myself and our university, thank you. Because last year, the gesture of Coursera to make your entire content available free for the students and for the world community at large, I think it was a really, really generous gesture from you, and it was really well appreciated, and we for sure definitely appreciate it. So thank you for showing that gesture.
No, absolutely, and thank you for your kind words. We were very fortunate to be able to support higher education during this time. So thank you for saying that. Dr. Sharma, if I could come to you next, and before that, let me introduce you. You're of course Pro-Chancellor of Ganpat University. And what I'd love to ask you, is of course a lot of institutions take industry collaborations seriously enough, and they build dedicated partnerships team to drive various initiatives as well. What are you doing at Ganpat University? Is a dedicated team enough to serve its purpose? Are there other elements that higher education should keep in mind as we think about these partnerships with industry?
Thank you, Raghav, for giving me this opportunity to be part of this esteemed panel. And in fact, while all the other panelists have talked extensively about the various facets, uh, there are a few things which I can sum up and can correlate. Is one of the things that we have worked is a phenomena called industry inside university and university inside industry. Now, a few examples. Now, we have Japan India Institute of Manufacturing at Ganpat University with Suzuki Motors, where we have an automobile assembly line and cars are assembled by students. Now, this is the highest extent of an hands-on learning that a student gets. Our pharmacy college has a tablet and a fluid manufacturing unit right inside the pharmacy college, which is run by our alumni, and we do job work for a lot of leading companies. So this is the second example where we have an industry inside university, which are we have 23 such centers of excellences, including a full working ship for marine engineering inside the campus. Uh, our university's center of excellence and research center is inside E-Info Chips, which is a Aero company, which has been taken over by Aero, US company now. So for embedded and VLSI technology. So the university's research center is housed inside the industry. So while we are talking about whether this is left to a dedicated team, it's about a culture which has to be created, because it's not only about COVID. The way the global phenomena has happened, while Mantha Saab was talking about, there were few things which was coming to my mind, that in order to make universities perennial and sustainable on their own over the period of time, they have to move away from their 100% dependency on fee to figuring out industry interactions where they can have alternate sources of funding and revenues coming to them, where there are several models. And while we are talking about our Prime Minister's dream of $5 trillion economy by 2025, as well as we are trying to project India as the new avenue for companies who are moving out of China, we have to think about proving our prowess through our universities, through our education system, that we are not only good in incremental improvements and innovations, we are good in radical innovations. Now, if we have to prove that we are good in radical innovations, we have to work closely with the industry. It cannot be at the end or the start point of the process. It has to be on the continuous process of improvement, which has have to happen. So it's not simply about creating an industry interface cell or having a lot of people from industry coming and talking to us, which was a natural phenomena of experience sharing. I can tell you, when we established centers of excellences in each of our faculty, we had Americans, we had Germans, we had French, we had Britishers, we had Australians, but we were not having Indian companies. So we were writing to them, and we realized of late that majority of them were importing technologies. So they were dependent on it, and they thought that if they share their technology, their processes, things would be like they may lose their USP in the market. But things are going for change now, and we have to increase the confidence of industry on the universities and their capacities. And you will be surprised, Raghav, now a lot of industry professionals are moving to universities and taking university as a career. Earlier it was not seen as a career. It was seen university where you take up a teaching career, so it was a one way line sort of a career opportunity. So the moment, as it we see in developed world, where a professor goes to an industry and takes up a key position and starts working there, and an industry executive comes to the university, those phenomena have started. And primarily we were teaching driven universities, and now we are moving towards being a research driven teaching university, and probably becoming research universities, where Mantha Saab did mention that companies should start from the universities. So Indian universities would only be able to do so when small initiatives like company adoption program. At Ganpat University, a team of professors along with two of junior colleagues have to adopt three companies, which is a mandate. You have to adopt the company, and you have to work closely with them over the period of time. And this is a smaller initiative, but it has a path-breaking impact because the learnings come to the classroom, the entire know-how and the network accrues to the entire teaching learning process. So it's about not only creating some cell or empowering a team and asking them to simply work, because the throughput when it comes to the university, the support won't happen, the processes won't support it. It has to be about a culture which has to be created inside the universities, which is an industry integrated university teaching and learning processes. And if that happens, everything would start working in a sync. So at Ganpat University, we have experimented tremendously with all these innovations. And today, I'm happy to share that it's not only about skilling. The reverse process has happened. Tata Motors is starting sending its batches of employees in a batch of 30 to Ganpat University to upgrade them. So it is like they are all ITI grades. They want to do diploma engineering. There is a group of diploma engineers who want to become degree engineers now. So companies have started trusting the universities. And if I look at the ecosystem, in my backyard, 30 kilometers is Detroit of India, from Suzuki to Ford to Honda. Everybody has come. But the worst part was while they were coming, they were not having manpower. So we took up the call and we said, let's start special courses, special programs for them. And we went and we reached out to them and we started special programs in automobile. You will not believe 62 vendors of Maruti, they take away 400 of my diploma grades every year and they are dedicatedly taking it away. Brakes India, Motherson Sumi, you name the company. And they are so much hunger for manpower, right kind of manpower, which is not available. And if universities, they work closely, they will supply them with the right manpower, and the cost of training and reskilling would reduce drastically, which will also is an economic saving for any company as well as for the state. So this is an holistic process, and it has to work from top to down and bottom to up again. So it has to become a part of culture. This is what I have to tell my submission.
Wonderful points. And I think what you said at the end, that this is a holistic process and it is a combination of a strategic initiative and very tactical, well executed points as well. I think really sums it up for me from what you shared. So thank you for sharing that. Those were some real gems. Last but not the least, Professor Ranjan, if I could come to you next. And wonderful background of your university behind you. I'm assuming it's a virtual background, but looks really wonderful. So Professor Ranjan is, of course, Vice Chancellor of D.Y. Patil International University. And Professor Ranjan, continuing on this theme of how universities and companies or industry should be thinking about, I wonder if there's a way for a partnership to be effective, for this to be an equal partnership, right? It's not that the university is the only one who's in a sense chasing industry to come and partner with them. And in your context, if I understand correctly, you have technology schools, but you also have so many schools across different disciplines, including healthcare. How does this become an invaluable equal partnership, and how do you think about it at D.Y. Patil University?
Thank you, Raghav. Just one more point I would like to chat before I go into your question. What Vineet was talking about, and I think to some extent Rajita was also talking about. And also I would like to say that my home estate is Gujarat only. I'm from 95 hours, I have lived there. My home is only house I have is in Gujarat, so I have seen two of you from Gujarat. I was also very closely working with the AICTE day for yesterday, whole day I was in the AICTE itself. And Rajita, I've been meeting across various events. We are co-speakers many times, so being very happy to be with all of you. One of the points is that empathy part is very, very important. And I grew up in a Gurukul style school from the age of 10. We were in jungles, we were living in ashram actually. We used to do work with hand from every day. So we will clean toilets, we'll clean dishes, we'll clean floors. That's all the routine. That builds certain dignity of labor in this. This is very important actually for the country, because today from the house itself, we bias children against working with hand. And we need to make sure that hand, heart and mind are connected together in each child. And some of you were talking about this. I'll come back to this point. Let me come back to your questions. You're talking about equal. Actually, I'm going to talk about unequal partnership. I'm not going to talk about equal partnership. I want to reverse the game. The game is not industry ahead of us, but university ahead of industry. This is somewhat happens in US, and actually where actually most of the initial work, especially R&D work, happens in university. University ahead of industry. Industry catches up later. In India, actually, we always talk about industry-academic collaboration in the way that we are going to learn something from industry. And the reason for that is that we actually don't develop industrial technology in India. We import the technology from outside. So who imports the technology? It's the industry imports it for its purpose, and then university has to learn to use that. And the so-called center of excellence are only set up by industry to train the students in their technology so that they could hire those students, good students out of those, without having to train them further. So they are ready for their particular industry. I want to change this game, and I was not sure how I was going to do it, but my university is even newer, only about 3 years old. My grandson is about 3 years old. But the good thing is that the new generation, I've seen my grandson and other, my nephew, niece children, they are very smart learners. So we also wanted to be very smart learners. We had to change the game. So what I had in mind was that we bring university should become the R&D center for industry in the early stage. So for example, let's say there are 10 problems that industry is interested, which is not required today. It may be required 15 years, 20 years down the line. We work on those technologies in the university, in the industrial R&D centers, set up by industry. They will have their own staff. There will be some faculty and students involved with that. They look at those 10 problems, and they may find that out of 10, 8 is not worth following. That two seems to be worth following. And those two, the industry can then start putting up more money, either with the partners with the university, or they can take on their own. The reason is that university provides a low-cost way of developing this work. It's much more costlier for industry to do that. This was in my mind. I'll come back to this point again. The second thing was the university curriculum. And Dr. Mantha is here. I did not want to follow a particular rigid system which a government regulatory body might have. I wanted to create something which was needed today. I was fortunate that I was heading India's technology think tank in Delhi for 5 years. And it was very close to AICTE. In fact, my office was in IIT Delhi campus itself. We prepared Technology Vision 2005. So I was very much aware of the technology that was coming along in next 20 years. We have seen that the curriculums had become outdated. The students we always hear about the students being unemployable. So I created my own curriculum of computer science engineering in 2019. And I did not go to AICTE for approval because it was a completely different system, but I shared with them that this is what I'm planning to do and see if what you like or you don't like. Fortunately, the All India Board 2 years ago, in 2019, 21st February, they actually appreciated the program. I got a formal appreciation letter, and AICTE set up a committee to revamp the computer science curriculum of the country. I was a member of that. And actually, due to that, 5 to 6 new programs were launched in 2020, which was related to what we had done. And I'm also happy to report that Pune University, I saw that last month, they reported something similar. So what we started is a bold step. It was a risky step. Thanks to my management, they allowed me to go ahead with that. We are able to change the country's curriculum across the country in 2 years' time, which was needed. Coming back to this point of unequal partnership, where university has R&D center set up by industry. I'm happy to report to you that while we're struggling with the Corona phase, where even economic viability of universities were in doubts because of the admissions, the students were not there, all kind of problems. Suddenly a bright light starts to come out, where we got request from Silicon Valley to start a nuclear fusion program with the help of university. And most of you, I'm not sure how much of you are aware, but I would say that in the country, only one place right now is the Gandhinagar, where nuclear fusion work goes on. 2 of you are close to Gandhinagar. I was also there at Institute of Plasma Research. I was also at Calcutta Science School of Nuclear Physics. These were the 2 centers for nuclear fusion. The Calcutta Center is almost closed now, so only Gandhinagar work is going on. And no other place, either private or government institution, anything was going on. So I was surprised to receive this request from Silicon Valley because of certain technological changes happening, which I was aware. I was trying to promote this in Delhi. I've not been successful so far. I'm again trying it out. Especially high temperature superconducting material development is making the game change, has become a game changer where we start to see nuclear fusion technology starting to become commercialized in the next 15 years. And so I got a request to actually lead an effort. So we're starting this program in the university. In fact, first week of March, I have a number of people joining. Many of them are from Gandhinagar because they've been trained there. And then shortly we are looking for a place to actually set up experimental facility. Originally, I thought I'll do it in Gujarat, but then investors wanted to be done in Pune itself. So we are going ahead with this. So this is the first time in the country we are working as a university with the help of private sector in area which is completely uncertain. The returns on investment are not at all guaranteed, but I'm happy to report you that we have started doing this. Similarly, you mentioned about health thing. I'm also actually started working on chronic health problems, actually where again private industry is supporting, and not only private industry, have a lot of people from medical professions, Swamiji, who is MBBS himself, with Ashram in this case, and almost yesterday also we were interacting. Number of people are joining hands together to solve chronic health problems across the country, where R&D, scientific R&D is also being done in my university, and industry supporting that also, so we can take it to large scale. So this is what I was calling unequal partnership, where actually university is starting to take lead with industry setting up R&D center in the university. I don't think I'll take more of time, but
yeah, these are wonderful points. I'd love to come back to you in just a moment once again, Professor Ranjan. But university ahead of industry, and don't worry about an equal partnership, but rather focus on an unequal partnership. Wonderful, wonderful words. I'd like to change gears a little bit. We have about 20 minutes with us. I don't know if we have a way to take audience questions on this platform. We've all spoken a little bit about, from an employment standpoint, how universities or higher education should collaborate with industry. We've touched a little bit about, is there a role for universities to also collaborate with government departments? And Vineet spoke about it, and Rajita spoke about it, Dr. Sheth spoke about it as well. I'd love to talk about a little bit about how should universities be collaborating with other universities, right? How do you collaborate amongst yourselves? And because I come from Coursera, and we have so many universities who partner with us, and we are an online platform, I'd also love to ask a little bit around what role does online education have to play in this collaboration as well. And we've seen massive adoption of online education through the COVID period. Dr. Mantha, you're very experienced in this place. So collaboration between universities, and within that space, is there a role for online education to play? Let me start with you.
Yeah, Raghav, I mean, hearing to the various dignitaries here, I was reminded of the system that prevails in Germany. The Max Planck Society creating the fundamental research, and the Fraunhofer Society using it, where they set up institutions on a campus where they're teaching, and the industry arms of various sectors on the same campus coming together with the end requirement of creating products. Now that's probably the best collaboration that can happen between the universities and industries housed on the same campus and things like that. But having said all that, coming back to your question, see, leveraging the collaborative ecosystems for better employment has been very, very important post-COVID, and it was always there, but it has been highlighted like never before. So we can not possibly keep the institutions away from industries because of the 4.0 culture that's coming in, massive automation and things like that. So the new ways of collaboration must be really explored. I'll give you one or two examples here. If you look at the sports apparel companies, they are now delivering health outcomes, and even car markets are collaborating in to deliver mobility and so on. And taking a cue from that, the institutions too must wake up and create ecosystems of partners across the customer value chain, collaborating universities with universities, and delivering multiple learning paradigms and things like that. In that sense, what is probably required is moving out from a traditional value chain that creates value based on the production of goods and services, We need to actually talk of value webs connected on the social media, which create value-based knowledge exchange that drives education and learning paradigms through various collaborative processes. So this model will actually bring in universities together on the social media and create the necessary synergy that really needs to be done. As far as new collaborative models are concerned, if you look at the Toyota and Suzuki's experience, they have actually come together to collaborate to bring in next generation vehicles. Can our universities not do that? They also probably in time will need to look at collaborating in that fashion. Today, another important point is today students are demanding more sophisticated, contemporary, complete solutions, courses, programs, and so on, which are actually beyond the capacity of one traditional university. And therefore, use of online, blended methodologies, they all must be massively used in a collaborative mode. A value proposition, again, must be created for each and every collaborating institution to drive the interest. Otherwise, they'll not come together. And again, if you look at the Tata Motors experiment of Nano, though the vehicle itself failed, it created several supply chains which talked of low cost spare parts and low cost technology and low cost which aided the price reduction, and the impacts were very, very significant. Now that is something that will happen when you collaborate even in the university markets, because of the cost of education that's been going up significantly. Even the curriculum that is designed must go through the, for example, if you are talking of electric vehicles, which has a huge potential in times to come, you need to engage everybody: city planners, energy players, public transportation providers, regulators, infrastructure companies, and so on. And each one of them, will need a different expertise, and probably you cannot find all of them in one single entity like a university and so on. So a lot of that collaboration will be required again between universities and so on. Now, there is all just one sec. There is also this while doing this, while universities come together, there's a huge scope of crowdsourcing of wisdom, and that must be absolutely used. The technology is already there. Digitalization that we are talking about is already there. The IT infrastructure cannot probably be shared, but cannot probably be created and recreated by every single institution, university, and so on. So therefore, they have to come together, share that IT infrastructure, share the content, share faculty, and therefore the time probably has come to really talk about universities coming together and sharing almost everything. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I took away one specific thing, which is what you said, that given how industry has changed, possibly one university might not be able to provide everything in terms of learning to students going forward, just given the pace of change as well. Dr. Sheth, from a public institution standpoint, what would be your thoughts on higher education institutions collaborating with each other?
So we are discussing very important and interesting point. So as a public institution or a state university or a central university, they have to also play the important role today. And now the government is also very vibrant. The central government and state government is also collaborating with the different institutes. Even central government has MOU with the different 11 countries, particularly for the Singapore technical institutes, then with the UAE, with one institute with driving, because a skilled driver is required. So a standard in global standard and in skill development, and to migrate the workers globally. So international standard is required. So collaboration. So government is also vibrant, but as far as the state university is concerned, central university is concerned, they're slowly moving on this side. But now in this National Education Policy 2020, so many reforms are there, and definitely now the whole education and particularly the public university or a state university will move towards that. And the major thing is even a domestic collaboration is also very, very important. We have the number of resources in India with the different institutes, either it is a research institute or university, but there is no such strong collaboration between the institute to institutes, and that's why the optimum use of the resources are not utilized by the Indian institutes. And our students means the research scholars, they are not getting the benefit of all such resources which are already available. So university has to initiate this thing particularly, and the use of all such resources available in India to be utilized optimally, 24/7 to be utilized. And because such a country, such a large country, we should have every institute don't have all such type of the facility, and everything is not possible. But domestic collaboration is very, very important part. Even one report by the FICCI and NESCOM, that future of jobs in India, 2022 perspective report state that by 2022, 9% Indian will be in job that do not exist today, and 37% of the Indian workforce would be employed in job with radically changed skill sets. So that is very, very important report, that the university should think out of box, and what type of the requirement after 10 years, after 5 years, and accordingly they have to create a infrastructure facility and other facility at the laboratories, at the institutes itself. So
thank you. That's very wonderful. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'd like to start closing out. We have about 10 minutes. And before I come to Rajita and to Dr. Sharma, Professor Ranjan, if I could come to you once again, and then Rajita to you, and then to Dr. Sharma to close us out. Just this whole idea of collaboration between universities, and within that, is there a role for online education? Your thoughts on that from a DY partner perspective?
Yeah, so actually there's a topic I just discussed a few days back when Rajita was also in an ASSOCHAM event, where I talked about collaboration across universities on theme-based research. So theme-based research is something that is a larger objective, and the different pieces of puzzles that can be looked after by different universities. And thanks to online facilities today, it existed for a long time. I was using for last 5-6 years Zoom facility, other things for women training program. But today it has become highlighted. All of us got used to it. So actually today distances don't matter, the countries don't matter, the time zones don't matter. So the collaboration across the country. In fact, we had a team of Maharashtra universities, we had a team of Arunachal Pradesh, and others coming together. And this is what we discussed, that let's take a theme on which we have common interest, and based on our expertise, we can work on different parts of the puzzle so that the complete story emerges. And this is the kind of cooperation I'm talking about. We also have a private university association in Maharashtra called PERA, which is pre-eminent education and research association. So research part was there, which is ignored. I exactly made the same point there also, that let's start focusing on the research part as a team. And not only we compete with each other, but we cooperate with each other. It's just a healthy competition that we should have. This is what we are trying to promote. Thank you.
Wonderful. Rajita, you spoke about the Faculty of Emerging Technology with IBM. It's a very specific program. It's a sustainable program. They know what they are doing, and your team knows what they are doing. Is there a very specific way of collaboration between universities? Intent is okay, but is there a sustainable mechanism of being able to collaborate with universities as well?
Absolutely, Raghav. I think that is the one thing in India we can do a lot more of. We are always, when we talk of collaboration, we somehow think of international collaborations, and which is great. But I think the one thing the pandemic has thrown open is a massive interaction between educational institutions. I mean, all of us are meeting each other in so many different platforms and conferences. And I think this kind of interaction has never happened in the physical world, in the pre-COVID world. And I think this will be a good catalyst. We are already speaking with a few universities, like Dr. Ranjan spoke about theme-based. All of us don't need to do everything. And that is where I think we need to have a mindset of purpose over profit. Because if we say that we are in this for that bigger idea, the bigger vision for the country or for that challenge that we are trying to solve for humanity, I think it will navigate us to do better partnerships. And I think it's a foregone conclusion that it has to be done. I think Dr. Mantha said it, and others have. Dr. Sheth also said it. What is the capacity each of our universities has to do everything? It is not infinite. So fewer better things that you can champion individually, and many more things that you can do in collaboration. I think that is the way for us for the future. I think the students will benefit, and everybody. It will be a win-win for everybody. And I would say one more thing also. Not linear but circular. Even for industry academia relationship, I always say this, that it is not an input output equation we need to look at. How can we make it circular? How can we make it sustainable and self-fulfilling? I think that is what we need to look at. We are, in fact, in the next 2 weeks, Raghav, going to sign some MOUs with Indian universities. And this will be the first for us. We are in our young life, and I'm really keen to see how we can grow that in a very, very fruitful and mutually productive way. So definitely we should do it. And there are other subjects like agriculture, for example, Raghav. We have a faculty of agriculture. Now, it is very core to the art of living DNA that organic farming. Gurudev is very, very keen that our farmers have a sustainable way of living through our organic farming. So because it's connected to otherwise farmer suicides and all the other challenges that our country is facing. So when we started our faculty of agriculture, we were not so sure what to expect out of it. But because of some of the existing collaborations with the existing universities, not formal, just mentorship from them, today it's one of our most oversubscribed faculties. We turn away 60%, we get 60% oversubscription, which is very good and which shows the interest of the students and what you can bring. We are even doing bilingual classes because many of the kids who come are from core farmer families from different parts of the country. So there is a lot of collaboration we must do, I think, and in a way the pandemic has catalyzed that, and I'm quite excited and looking forward to what we can do together within India. Dr. Ranjan's idea, completely subscribe. It is not, okay, it's unequal, equal, we can talk about it, but in India also, we academics should get to be known as the thought providers, as the idea disruptors, as the innovators, as the research contributors to solve the problems of humanity. And industry should come running to us in that sense, seeking us out. So definitely, I'm looking forward to being in touch with all of us who are on this panel to start with.
Yeah, that's a good starting point for sure. And Dr. Sharma, you spoke extensively about everything that you're doing from a university to university collaboration. I think we might have lost him. I'll just give it. Okay, you're back. So I was saying, Dr. Sharma, that from a university to university collaboration, what's your point of view? You spoke about faculty also playing a big role in industry collaboration. And I think you said faculty adopts 3 companies each. Is there a flavor of that? Is there a faculty role specifically as well for us to think about?
For institution collaboration, the important part is that there was a concept in Gujarat which was promoted, which was multi-varsity. When Madam Jayanti Ravi was there as commissioner, she came out with a concept called multi-varsity, and it was opened wherein the student of one university can take a course from another university if the professor there was of a higher intensity and intellectual capital. So that possibility was encouraged. With this possibilities of interacting, we have a collaboration with Victoria University in Melbourne, and 60% of the content is delivered by the professors there. And for the remaining of the content, they train our faculties, and we started the program in ERP system way back in 2010. Nobody was offering a full-fledged program in ERP systems at that point of time. So it was a triangular arrangement with SAP, with Victoria University and Ganpat University. So VU would deliver 60% of the content online. We'll train our faculty for the remaining of the content, and we delivered it. And in some of the cases, in one of the programs with Oracle, we had a very openness where Oracle said that for 2 years, our experts will only teach, and your faculty would sit inside the classroom, learn the content, appear in our certification. Once they get certified, then only they can teach. We allowed that openness to happen. And when we are looking at collaboration, it is more to give than to take. So then only a win-win formula would emerge. So in many of the domains in new knowledge which is opening up, institutional collaborations are a must. You cannot foresee the movement forward without having collaborations with right set of institutions and individuals. So they have to come along. So this lays the very foundation of a very successful partnership between institutions as well as with the industry. So we have experimented on all these counts and slowly and gradually evolved models on each of these aspects. And we are learning in the process. And we are trying to give it a finer shape, and probably a holistic ecosystem would evolve, because it cannot be a one standby arrangement which can solve your problem. It's about creating a full ecosystem as an enabler, and then knowledge acquisition and dissemination happens naturally, and the beneficiaries at the end of the day are the students. So because they get the best to learn from, and it's a blend of not only the conceptual knowledge but hands-on learning as well as an exposure of a very high order. So I feel that there is a need of the way the administrators, the owners, and the founders are thinking about this concept has to change. And probably COVID has taught us to think differently and very innovatively look at how we have been organizing our teaching learning processes. And this online also, because Coursera, as Rajita madam has informed you, we are also thankful to you because you opened it up free of cost for the students, and you will not believe we blended it in the curriculum, and we said one MOOC is mandatory. Everybody should take one MOOC for the staff also and for the students also. We said you have to take one MOOC in your area of interest, and evolution is a part, and if the content is available, it becomes an enabler. So this is my reflection on it. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I know we are almost at time, and I have 3 pages of notes, but I'm not going to try and summarize everything that you have said. I'll share these with the organizers, and they'll hopefully summarize these into something for us to refer back to. I think all of you have been a wonderful audience. I think I've learned a lot. I know we have about 350 people online who've been listening to all of you, and I know they've taken away a lot from everything. Thank you so much for sharing all of your thoughts. And I look forward to continuing the dialogue even post this. And at some stage, hopefully coming to your campuses as well in the not so distant future. Professor Ranjan, yeah, quick point.
I also wanted to thank you, Coursera, for giving that opportunity in the dark times of COVID. That came as a big help to students. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
No, absolutely. And it's been a privilege for us to be able to support during this time. All right, I'll hand back to the organizers with that. Thank you once again for your time today.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Thank you all for.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.